So you get that strung out. So we get home, I teach with Friday, Saturday, I get called, text you. Didn't even know.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ron, let's pray. Our dearest Heavenly Father, we come to this time of prayer, grateful and thankful, Father, for the many blessings that have been showered down upon us. The blessings have been upon this nation and its people. May we, Father, always honor you in what we do, what we say, and the laws that we pass, that it could be truly a beautiful thing in your sight. Thank you for the blessings that have been upon this club and its work locally and around the globe, trying to end the dread disease of polio and bringing clean water to those who desperately need it. Father, we give you praise, glory, and honor for all good things. This is our prayer through your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. All right, Fred.
Yes, sir. Real easy, and dancing is allowed in the house.
Speak for yourself, man.
He said, speak for myself. Clementine, in a cabin in a canyon, excavating for a mine, lives a miner 49er and his daughter Clementine. Oh, my darling. In the cavern, in a canyon, excavating for a mine, lived a miner 49er and his daughter Clementine. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. And nobody danced in the aisles. Thank you. Well done, Mark.
Thanks, Fred.
You're welcome.
All right, well, welcome to this week's Rotary meeting, the last Rotary meeting in March. Crazy that the month is going so fast and the year is going even faster, it feels like. So we have a wonderful presentation today. Jim told me a couple weeks ago that his wife Kathy was going to be here to do the entire presentation. And I just broke the news to her for that. She's on vacation. But we do have a couple guests here, and I just mentioned Kathy Deal is with us. So welcome, Kathy. Good to see you back in the room. Rob, you want to introduce your guest?
Sure. This is Gail Tolles. Gail is in a meeting with us this week. And so he's a minister. He comes to us from North Carolina, though he spent, and don't hold this against him, about 30 years over here in Casey, Illinois. Nothing wrong with Casey, it's the Illinois portion. Fine suspect, but he's a guy of good character nonetheless. And want to invite anyone, if you have an opportunity, 7 o'clock each night through Friday night. We'll have you come out if you so desire.
Welcome, Gail. Marianne, you want to introduce your guest?
Natalie's back with us again today.
I think it's Natalie's third time, so pretty soon we get to induct you as a member, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, even though Mary Jo's not here, she's on vacation. Lee, you want to introduce?
We have Judah Lorman with us again.
Wonderful. I think this is like your third or fourth time now, too, so we get to induct you soon, too. So, yeah. Welcome back. And then I actually have a guest, Jordan Sando, who's over in the corner. Wade Gordon. He's been here a few times. So. Welcome, Jordan. Any other guests that we have this week? Brandon, you almost count as a guest by how busy you've been lately, so we'll count you as a guest today. Who's happy about something? Yeah.
We went here last week, but we were in Roanoke, Virginia, and we went back to visit the family in Salem, which is real close. But we attended the Salem, Virginia Rotary last week on Thursday, and we wore our yellow shirts, and they were very impressed with it. So it was the whole place we were at was about as big as Cilantros here. They have like 140 members.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But the format every day was the same as the Rotary here.
Cool.
But we pulled up in the parking lot, we didn't know which way to go, but we saw a man with his badge on, so we contacted him, we knew where to go, and he was very helpful, and they said they don't get many visitors, but they were very happy we were there.
They're probably talking about you guys this week now too. They're looking around like,
We
are they
turned our
coming?
slips in already for our pickup.
Good. Awesome.
There were about 80 there,
Wow.
85.
Cool.
And they have like the buffet meal kind of thing, it's like, I guess, it's at the Civic Center, is
Yeah.
where they do their meetings, at the Civic Center. And the meal was very good, you had a selection of like 2 different meats and 2 different vegetables, and a whole table full of desserts and stuff. So the setup's really good, the way, you know, where they came in and they got their food and sat down, and then there was the people calling,
Yeah.
orders out and stuff. So that worked very well.
Good. Good to hear that. Wonderful. I'm glad you guys had a good trip too. Made it there and back safely. So.
Sounds nice, but they don't clearly have the membership we do, the personalities and the camaraderie and things.
Yeah, the personality for
And the
sure.
characters.
Characters.
Yeah.
The characters. You gotta come to the Rotary celebration.
Who else is happy or excited about something?
I'd kind of like Frank to tell us about, he said this is going to be the first time he's going to meet his future mother-in-law.
Yes,
That'd be interesting.
We met with her 3 times, and I saw her 3 big brothers too. 2 of them about 6 foot, and 1 of them about 6'1".
For us short guys, it's pretty intimidating, isn't it? Anybody else really excited or happy or looking forward to something? Rob always has something. I got a joke for Rob in a minute.
And so we finished off our day trips around for spring break last week, and I just thoroughly enjoyed the extended time to be able to go out and do things with the kids. And yes, we did some simple things, bowling, what have you. But then on Friday, we went down to Vincennes. And I think, well, is there much to see there? There is. Surely you can knock it out in a day or a half day. No, you can't. And but we got to see the George Rogers Clark. I did not realize that the Clark of Lewis and Clark was actually a younger brother of his, but I learned that. And we didn't get to the War Museum, but we did want to do that. But the William Henry Harrison House, and you know, it's a very humbling thing to realize that just barely over 200 years ago, that people were sloshing through swampy wetlands to go attack a British fort that they're outnumbered 4-1 to try to secure for themselves a peaceable sort of life free of attack and things. I mean, just barely over 200 years ago, and it was amazing to me and very humbling to think I could probably pick up my civic duty just a little bit more when you hear that kind of thing. But that's my happy buck.
Wonderful. At least they were open too. Anybody else excited or happy about something? Alright, so here's my joke. I saw it on Facebook. If you attend Purdue University, you have a higher chance to go to the moon than you do the NCAA Final Four.
And that is unarguable. That hurts, but that is very true.
You know, the board, we have this group texting, and as soon as Purdue lost, we all reached out to Rob to make sure he was doing okay and lend a shoulder for him to cry on. It was pretty devastating. But maybe next year.
I was crying, it's true.
Maybe next year. Well, at this time, one of the fun things that we get to do as a Rotary Club is to present funding requests to different organizations in the community. So Jordan is here on behalf of the local Boy Scout Council, and he's also one of my best friends. So Jordan, come on up. We're going to present you with funding requests. I told him he didn't have to give a long speech or anything, so I'm going to hold up to my end of the bargain on that. But I volunteer with the Boy Scouts as well. It's kind of the downfall when one of your best friends gets a job in the area and then has volunteer positions available, because then they ask you to do things, and how do you say no to your friends? But you know, our local Boy Scout district serves 6 counties here in the western side of the state. And you know, Rob talks about Scouts a lot, and I was actually in the same Boy Scout troop that Rob's sons are in, and so known Rob for years, known John Lee for years. He was one of my camp counselors when I was first at summer camp, if you can believe that. So, but Jordan and I worked together to help with the local Scout Council. He put in a funding request, and it went through the board. And so this funding is going to go to help strengthen the units in our area and the rural communities here in the Wabash Valley. So we're really excited to present Jordan with a check for $1,000. He's got the real one, but we've got to do the big plastic one. So the official picture here. Thanks, Maggie. You don't get to keep it.
Thank you.
Come on, Jordan, you can say something amazing.
Put you on the spot. Go for it. Say like 2 sentences.
So I'd say the biggest focus for this funding is going to help here in Clay County. We have 3 really strong units before. Sorry, I lost. Actually 5. So we have Jackson Township. We have a pack and a troop over there working on getting the pack restarted, which Rob has been a huge help with that. We also have a troop, a crew, and a pack with Vigo County Conservation Club. So we'll definitely help them with registration systems and getting summer camp opportunities like that. Thank you.
John's got something to say. We're bringing back memories from John here.
Well, Jordan, I'm surprised you didn't say something about this coming weekend out at Camp Cretenstein.
I was gonna cover him on that one.
Were you gonna cover
Yeah.
him on that? Which is halfway in Clay County. It's gonna be the 100th anniversary celebrated at Camp Cretenstein. It was developed as a Boy Scout camp 100 years ago, and that's going to be celebrated this weekend on, can you imagine, April 1st, April Fool's Day. But the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, there's going to be a big celebration out at Camp Cretenstein.
Cretenstein is located in the Center Point. And we'll have close to 400 scouts from across the western section attending. So we're having, I believe, a lunch for former Camp Cretenstein staffers at 2 o'clock. So if anyone would like to come check out and see what scouting is all about, we'll be at Cretenstein this weekend.
And then the connection that the Rotary has to Camp Cretenstein is the old dining hall. I say old dining hall because there's a new dining hall facility out there, fully air conditioned, all that fun stuff. But our old dining hall out there, the Rotary Club played a big part to help construct that, and over the years helped maintain that. So my first exposure to Rotary was when I was in Cub Scouts, in the dining hall at the fireplace mantle. It has service above self and the Rotary emblems on it. And so that's a pretty cool history that the Rotary Club has with camp. So thank you, Jordan, and we look forward to seeing where that funds help Wabash Valley here.
Thank you.
Any other announcements for the club before, I know Jim just got his food, so he's going to have to eat in like 3 bites. But I can stall for like 2 seconds here, Jim, I promise you that. That was your 2 seconds.
We're up.
You're up. So everybody, the great and wonderful Jim and Kathy Deal.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad we have such a photogenic president that can be in the paper all the time, all these awards we do. It's nice to get the recognition for the club. And I don't know, do you have a bucket list? You know what a bucket list is, right? Something you want to do before you kick the bucket. And I've got kind of an informal bucket list. But on that list is I want to see the Northern Lights. That's been one of my things to do. And that start yet. I'm not ready yet. Okay. So Northern Lights has been on my bucket list, and I've decided that the place to see those, of course, you have to go pretty far north to get to see them. And so I saw a trip to Iceland come up on my browser that I have that advertises different trips to me. And I said, that's it. We're going to go do that. And I asked Kathy, she's always up for something like that. She doesn't give me much trouble. If I say I want to go, she's right there wanting to go too. So we just kind of decided we're going to go to Iceland and see the Northern Lights. That was the main thing we hoped to do as we go up there. And I thought I'd show you, Iceland's part of Europe, but it's not on mainland Europe. It's way up here. It's actually closer to Greenland than it is to any land of Europe. But they don't know what else to do with it, so it's part of Europe, you know. And you can't see on this very well, but the Arctic Circle is right here. It just goes right to the north of the island. And the Arctic Circle is decided by, on the first day of summer, what day, that day there will be continuous light anywhere within that circle. And then on the first day of winter, it'll be totally dark that day. So they have a lot of fluctuation in how much light and dark they get. And we decided to see the Northern Lights, you really want to go when it's dark. So that meant going during the colder times of the year, because if we went in July, it's almost, the sun almost never goes down, and you don't have a chance of seeing the Northern Lights. So that's why this Thanksgiving, we decided we'd go to Iceland and have a chance to see the Northern Lights. And people are like, why in the world would you go to Iceland in November? But that's why. That was the reason why. And actually, let me tell you, it wasn't that bad of a time of year to go, because the temperatures are affected by the currents from the North Atlantic and the jet stream, and it wasn't that bad. It was maybe like 28 degrees in the air. And so you can see in our pictures, we prepared ourselves. We shopped for long johns, we had boots, we had gloves, heavy coats, and actually we were pretty comfortable, I think, the whole trip. So it just took a little extra planning to be ready for that kind of thing. I wanted to give you just a little background on the country of Iceland, because it's not something you probably think about too much. And Iceland is considered a part of Scandinavia. Their roots go way back into Scandinavia. Some of the very early settlers came in the 800 AD area, and they think some of the very early ones were from Norway and were Vikings that settled the place. And they said that there's kind of this rumor that they thought Iceland was so nice, they named it Iceland to keep people away and mislead them about it, and called Greenland green when it was really icy. But that's just a myth. That's not really the case. I think at some point somebody looked over and saw some of the glaciers and some of the icebergs that break off the glaciers and named it after that. And Iceland has as its theme the land of fire and ice. And so you'll see both if you get to go to Iceland. The fire part comes from volcanoes. It's very active. The whole island is volcanic. The soil is not that good of soil because of all this volcanic in nature. So there's a lot of lava fields, and you can see some of the lava fields and what we took pictures of there. And we were quite interested to see that, because it's not landscape we get to see very much. And The ice part comes from the glaciers. Pretty much this whole central part of the country is under glaciers or volcanoes, one or the other. And so it's an interesting mix on everything. The deal with Iceland is it sits right on top of tectonic plates, or you might call them continental plates. You have to think back to your science days in school, that there are different plates throughout the world that make up our surface. And Iceland sits right where two of them join. It's the North American plate and the Europe plate. And because of that, right along that line is the fault that causes the volcanic activity. And we have a picture in here too. Sorry about that one, I'm sorry. Just look at her, she's nice. We have a place where we got to visit where you can actually see the division between those two plates. You can look down on the ground and there it is. So you're kind of standing in North America and you're standing in Europe at the same time because of that division. When you go to Iceland, it's kind of a history of geology and getting to know a lot about your different rocks and formations and stuff. And as you can see, the country's got mountains, but they're all volcanic in nature. And they're very pretty, very striking in the way they are. When we were there, it snowed and it had ice everywhere. In fact, we wondered how the bus driver could even see out his windows, but he did it somehow. And when we stopped to go someplace, we saw him get his little step stool out. He climbed up on it so he could reach with his scraper and scrape the windows off. So it was a little uncertain how he was doing it without being able to do that. But they're used to ice and snow everywhere, and so they know how to handle it, and they get around right well. So Iceland was founded in the 800s or so, and they had a history where the people all came together and they formed their very first parliament, and they formed it in 930 AD. So it's considered the oldest parliament in the world that has been continuous in existence. And we got to go to the place where that was, which is also where the plates meet. And they call it Thingvellir or something like that. If you see any of the writing up here, you'll see that you can't pronounce any of these words that come from Icelandic. And they're very proud of that, very proud of the history that they had for a long time. So because Iceland is an island, it's developed rather independently of anybody else. It's not been strategic enough that it's been the center of wars and things like that. So most of the time Iceland's been left alone. And even today, much of the population is considered from Iceland, natives, Icelandic. The population is about 371,000 people. You consider that, the land is the size of, just a little bigger than Indiana, about the size of Kentucky. But they only have 371,000 people in it. So it's the least dense country in Europe. And where they do live, they live mostly along the coast and around the capital city, and the capital is Reykjavik. And the capital is about 240 or something. So it's roughly the size of Fort Wayne. That's their capital, Fort Wayne size. And most of the people live in that area. About 60% of the population lives either in or around Reykjavik. And Reykjavik is a very, very modern city. Often when you go to Europe, you see these buildings that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. And Reykjavik isn't that way. It's really modern, and it's a very nice city. It's very clean and very efficient. They're very concerned about the ecology there, and so there are certain places where buses aren't allowed to go in the city. Those streets are just blocked off, and you'll just walk if you need to get somewhere. And in fact, we found a street that was just for pedestrian traffic, and they painted it like a rainbow on the street, so they call it Rainbow Street. And there's a picture in there of Rainbow Street. And it was a very nice shopping area, and Kathy really enjoyed the shops that they had around there and get to go from place to place. So you don't feel unsafe anywhere. It's a very safe country. We saw, what did they tell us? That the jail wasn't even used, the old jail anymore. We didn't even use it. So they don't have a lot of crime, and they're mostly all natives. 89% of them are Icelandic, and the next largest percent of people are from Poland. Isn't that weird? 5%, and even weirder, 1% from Lithuania, of all things. So they're not really diverse, but they learn English at a very early time, and the people we spoke with were really good with their English, and it wasn't hard to find a taxi driver or anybody that could speak English to us. That was a good thing because their language is very hard to pronounce. It's Icelandic. It's like the purest form of the Scandinavian languages because they were left alone for so many years. So they don't have a lot of influence from other languages coming in and changing it. They are concerned about their ecology, and because they're in Iceland, they have thermal electric heat. It all comes from the ground with their hot water everywhere. There's hot water right to the surface. One of those pictures in there shows that it shows the temperature of the water up to 100 degrees Celsius, which is boiling. So you don't just go and jump in any body of water that you see. They do have a lot of hot water, and that's how they heat. So as a consequence, you look around Reykjavik, you don't see any chimneys. It's kind of weird. It's a place with no chimneys because they don't need them. It's the way they heat. And they're very, very proud of their water. They say, please drink the water. Pure Icelandic water. We kept reading that word. Pure Icelandic water. And it's very clean and very refreshing. Because of the hot water, that's one of our favorite places in Iceland. It's probably a favorite of most people because it's the #1 tourist attraction. It's called the Blue Lagoon. And that's where you saw us sitting in water. And the Blue Lagoon is like a huge hot tub, I guess you'd say. But it's all done with their thermo-heated water. And so the air temperature may be 28 degrees, but the water is like 105. And it feels really good, really good on you. And it's full of minerals, mainly silica, but other things that are good for your joints and good for your skin. And they sell it as treatments, you know, so if you want to buy some, Kathy bought a little face mask in the airport so she'd have something from the Blue Lagoon. And I think someday she's going to sit the grandkids down. They're going to have facials, something with all that. And so it was really relaxing to get to be in that. In fact, we only spent a few hours there, but I could spend an entire day just soaking in the hot water. It's not where you swim around in it, and there aren't kids splashing. In fact, no one under 2 is allowed because of the temperature of the water. So it's fun for that. And when you get admission to the Blue Lagoon, first of all, they have lockers for you to change, separated men and women, of course, and they're very particular that you take a shower before you get in the Blue Lagoon, and that's because there's no chlorine used, anywhere. And so they want you clean. That means you will take a shower with, wash your hair, you will use soap, and they provide all that, but they expect you to do that. And then you can go down and get in the water. Now, because it's so cold outside, they actually have a place where you can get inside the building. You can start in the water and then go out the door. So as long as you stay in the water, you're doing great. It feels good. And Kathy had a chance to have a massage, which is one of her favorite things to do wherever we are, even if we're home. But this massage was under the water. They allowed her to, they have like a table that's not all the way up to the surface of the water, it's just slightly below the water. And so they wrap you up and they just uncover whatever area they're working on, you know, like this is the leg, so we'll uncover the leg, and then cover you back up and uncover the next area. And she spent a half an hour getting a massage that was really neat to get to do that in the nice warm water. And it was actually therapeutic, I think, to be able to do that. That was an extra. And then also included with your admission is they have like a swim up bar type of thing where you can get a smoothie or something like that. And so it was really, really fun. And we weren't part of a group that we went with. What we bought was airfare and hotel and a Northern Lights experience. But they had other things offered, like the Blue Lagoon and a trip around the city and a trip out in the country. And what we found was all the people at our hotel had bought all the same things. So even though we weren't part of an actual group, we were together wherever we'd go because they bought the same things we bought. And so it was kind of nice. We kind of had our own little group that we were with. And COVID was in place. So they had to have a COVID test before we could get on the plane. And it had to be so many days ahead of time. And we passed our COVID test, and we had to present proof that we'd been vaccinated, and to let us on the plane. And we flew out of Chicago because what was offered to us was a fare that was from Chicago. And I asked about flying out of Indianapolis, and they said we could for another $500. And I thought, yeah, $500, I can drive to Chicago. So we did, even though it's not fun driving around Chicago. It was all tore up and everything. But so we flew direct. It's only 5.5 hours on the airplane. So that was really actually worth it. It made us get into Iceland really, really early in the morning. But it turned out we needed all that time. The airport is nowhere near the capital. It's like 45 minutes outside. So I think it's like flying into Greencastle and saying you're there, you know. You got a long way to go to actually get to the capital and downtown. And the bus doesn't leave until it's full. So we happened to hit it just as it was filling. We were like the last people on the bus, and so we didn't have to wait around. Well, we took our tour of the city of Reykjavik. As soon as we got there, we couldn't check into our hotel. It was too early. They let us leave our bags. And then we just basically turned around, got right back on a bus, toured the city, and it was a lot of fun to go around. One of the hallmarks of Iceland is a huge church. People call it the cathedral, but it's not Catholic. Okay, they're not. They have Catholic churches, but they're not Catholic. Most of them are Lutheran, and so the big church is Lutheran, and it's actually rather new. And it's very pretty. Probably saw some pictures of it way back, and we were able to tour the city and find out some about that, and then we were able to go outside the city and see some of the natural things. One of the things they have is we went to a place where they grow tomatoes, and tomatoes were really, it was interesting that all in a hot house because the soil is just not that great. And so they say we grow 60% of the tomatoes and cucumbers in Iceland. Well, come to find out, they like cucumbers because that was at breakfast every day. They would bring out this huge tray of cucumbers, neatly sliced, so it's obviously a machine that was doing it. And people would take like an entire cucumber sliced up and eat that for breakfast. And they were like, yeah, cucumbers. It's like, really? I mean, a slice or two's enough for me, but they like their cucumbers because they didn't have a lot of fruits and vegetables. Everything has to be imported, and it makes it a little bit expensive because, you're an island. And so they ate that. There was a porridge that we had every morning available to us, and it was actually pretty good stuff. It was more like oatmeal maybe. And there's a national yogurt, and Kathy tried that, and I had a bite of it. But it was good, wasn't it? The yogurt was good. And then to eat, well, that first night, we'd run so much, and just barely got off the bus and got back on another bus and stuff like that. We really didn't have time to go look for food. And it was Thanksgiving. So we said, well, we need turkey. It's Thanksgiving. So we went across the street to a Subway and had a turkey sandwich. That's not the way I like to eat when I'm traveling. But later, for our other meals, we found really nice restaurants. And of course, the main food is fish. That's what we have, and it's fresh. We went down to the harbor, and the fish was right out of the harbor. And they didn't have a menu. They're just little shacks, one after another. And the cab driver said, that one's reasonable, that one's not reasonable. So he guided us to the right place. And so we go in there, and they don't have a menu. They have a display case. And I said, pick what you want out of there. And so you can just go point. And I had some kind of white fish. I can't tell you what the name of it was. I was shocked we didn't have cod, because cod is a big export of theirs. And I guess they're busy exporting it all, but they're not serving it so much. But whatever that white fish was I had, it was delicious. They put a few little potatoes in there, but like I said, it's not much on vegetables, but really well done. We loved it. And another night we had fish and chips, and it was really good too. So we enjoyed the seafood, and the food was good, just not real varied because it's expensive to have it. So, my Northern Lights was on my bucket list. It's still on my bucket list because they weren't cooperating with us. And you never know, there's no guarantee. I mean, it was totally dark. There just wasn't much activity on the days we were there. And even though we stayed out till midnight, looking for Northern Lights, we all got to see kind of those pictures that are really dark because of that glow. Oh, that's Geyser. The name Geyser comes from Iceland. They have the original geyser, but the original geyser doesn't erupt anymore. So this is his little brother next door, and he erupts like every 10 minutes. And so we got to see geysers and all kinds of wonderful formations. So it's really worth the trip if you ever want to go to Iceland. Don't worry about it. It's a modern country. They make it easy to get around, and the people are extremely friendly. So I would recommend anybody take a trip to Iceland if you haven't come available. Thank y'all. I was going to tell you some of the stupid laws real quick. Well, funny laws. No dogs, okay? They weren't. There was a problem with dogs having some kind of disease, and the people got it, and so dogs were outlawed for the longest time. You can't have a dog now, but you have to go through all kinds of permits to do it. So mostly it's cats. They're like no snakes, lizards, and turtles for the same reasons. That one I think is reasonable. They weren't allowed to have beer for the longest time, but now beer's back on television. For the longest time, when television started, no television on Thursday, okay? It's just not healthy to just sit around and watch TV all day. So get outside, go do something on Thursday. And just recently, they've changed that where there are television programs on Thursday. And here's one, nobody from Basque area of Spain, or southern France. And you were allowed to shoot one if you saw it, okay? Just get rid of the Basque, they're not coming in. And then finally, they're very picky about their names. They have a very specific way they name people, and it's like Eric son, Eric daughter, and so you don't necessarily have the same last name as your brother, your sisters. You would with your brothers, or your sisters would, and you have to get clearance on the name. Okay, so there's not going to be any baby Elvis in Iceland. You're going to keep it pure. Thank you.
I don't know if, like, I never joke with Jim and his presentations because I always learn something. So every presentation you've given so far in my 3 years, I've really enjoyed. So thank you for that. And you're gonna have to take another trip now, so your next presentation will be about another trip.
I've been thinking about Russia, but I have to rethink that one.
Give it a minute on that one.
It's not gonna happen.
Kathy says no. So. Well, thank you, Jim, for that. We really appreciate you sharing your experience, and Kathy for coming with that. Anything else for the good of the club this week? All right, well, I know that there was a lot of discussion last week about the board meeting, still kind of figuring out if we're going to do it the week before or week after. So that's going to be my running joke now. But the 13th, like I said, we'll be over at the Bistro to give them a test run, see how that works out. I'm really looking forward to that and seeing just kind of how things go and trying a new restaurant. Well, it's not new, but it's grand reopening now, I guess. So new for me. So really excited about that. So if there's nothing else for the good of the club, we'll rise, take forward test. Of the things we think, say, or do,
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, everybody.
I got